Hello everyone. As I have promised you before, this is my first English version video from this channel. Today we will learn a beautiful Iranian folktale, The Shepherd's Treasure. You can get this prose in CBSE board NCERT book of class 6. Before starting the chapter, our first question should be, what is a folktale? Well, folk tales are some traditional short stories that has no writer and that actually pass down from one generation to another generation. We have heard this kind of stories from our grandmother or grandfather or our parents or from some other elders. Some Indian folk tales are like Panchatantra, the stories of king and queen, the stories of gods, etc. Our present text is an Iranian folktale. Here, the main character is a shepherd. A shepherd is a person who takes care of cows, goats, sheep, and some other domestic animals. In this story, this shepherd is not an ordinary shepherd. He was very wise, hardworking, humble, kind, and always helpful to others. Let's start our chapter. In a village in Iran, there once lived a shepherd. He was very poor. He did not have even a small cottage of his own. He had never been to school or learned to read and write, for there were very few schools in those days. So it's the very introduction of shepherd. He was poor, homeless, and he could not manage himself to read in any school, because at that time there were very less schools and that were only meant for rich or affordable people, not a poor like the shepherd. Though poor and uneducated, this shepherd was very wise. He understood people's sorrows and troubles and helped them face their problems with courage and common sense. Many people came to him for advice. Soon he became famous for his wisdom and friendly nature. Though he was poor, uneducated, he was wise. That means the shepherd has a lot of common sense and he had collected many knowledges from day-to-day experiences. He had a very friendly nature also. He always helped people with his knowledge, gained wisdom and common sense. The king of that country heard about him and thought of meeting him. Disguised as a shepherd and riding on a mule, one day the king came to the cave where the wise shepherd lived. As soon as the shepherd saw the traveler coming towards the cave, he rose to welcome him. Very soon the king of the country heard about this shepherd. He heard that a very wise shepherd is living in his country. So he wished to meet him, but here he had done a trick. He disguised himself as a traveler and then appeared him to the shepherd. As soon as the shepherd saw the traveler coming towards the cave, he rose to welcome him. He took the tired traveler inside the cave, gave him water to drink, and share of his own meager meal. The king rested for the night in the cave and was greatly impressed by the shepherd's hospitality and wise conversation. So every kind of hospitality was completely done by shepherd, giving water, offering his own small meal, everything. And the king was very impressed too. Though he still tired, the king decided to depart the next morning. He said, "Many thanks for your kindness to a poor traveler. I have a long way to go. Permit me to leave." Looking straight into the eyes of his guest, the shepherd replied, "Thank you, your majesty, for paying me the compliment of a visit." The king was very tired. Still, he decided to leave in the next morning. But before leaving, he said his earnest thanks to Shepherd. And magically at that time, Shepherd addressed him, "Your Majesty." That means the shepherd already knew who the traveler actually was. The king was astonished as well as pleased. "He is indeed very wise," he thought to himself. "I need people like him to work for me." And the king appointed this humble shepherd the governor of a small district. So the king was very surprised at the shepherd. He was thinking that how the shepherd identified him. But ultimately he was impressed, and he gifted the shepherd a position in his royal throne. What position? A governor of a district. So see how an illiterate shepherd who didn't have any school education got a job as a governor only on the power of common sense and curiosity and knowledge. Let's go to the next paragraph. Although he rose to power and dignity, the shepherd remained as humble as ever. People loved and honored him for his wisdom, sympathy, and goodness. He was kind and just to one and all. His fame as a fair and wise governor should spread throughout the country. So even in his new position as a governor, the shepherd was very hardworking, very kind, very helpful to all people. And for his hard work, kindness, and knowledge, he was very popular among the people. Now the governors of other provinces grew terribly jealous of him and began to talk to the king against him. They said, "He is very dishonest and keeps for himself part of the money that he collects as tax from the people." "Why did he always carry with him," they added, "an iron chest? Perhaps he carried in it the treasure that he had secretly collected." After all, they said mockingly, he was an ordinary shepherd and could behave no better. Now, an honest man has many enemies, especially if he becomes good in some sort of jobs. Here, the shepherd also has gathered many enemies around him. Who are they? Just like our shepherd, the governors of other provinces. That means the governors of other areas. They tried to give misconception about the shepherd to the king. They lied to king that the shepherd has taken illegal money as a tax. They also said that shepherd has a big iron chest and nobody knows what treasure he keeps inside. At first the king did not pay attention to these reports, but how long could he ignore these governors and their endless stories about the shepherd? One thing was certain that king discovered: the new governor did carry an iron chest with him all the time. So one day the new governor was summoned to the palace. He came riding on his camel, and to everybody's delight, the famous iron chest was there fastened securely behind him on the camel's back. Now the king was angry. He thundered, "Why do you always carry that iron chest with you? What does it contain?" At first the king tried to ignore all the complaints, but at last he failed. He summoned the shepherd into his court. And the king was surprised to see that the shepherd was really carrying an iron chest. Iron chest means a box made of iron. Okay, a large box. You can also call them trunk. To see that, the king became very angry upon him and ordered the shepherd to open the chest. The governor smiled. He asked his servant to bring the chest. How eagerly the people standing around waited for the shepherd to be found out, but how great was their astonishment, and even of the king himself, when the chest was opened, no gold or silver or jewels, but an old blanket was all that came out. Holding it up proudly, the shepherd said, "This is my dear master, this is my only treasure. I always carry it with me." So, when the chest was opened, everybody saw that nothing there inside the trunk. No treasures, no jewelries, only an old blanket. So, naturally, everybody astonished. "But why do you carry such an ordinary blanket with you? Surely you are the governor of a district," the king asked, to which the shepherd replied with quiet dignity, "This blanket is my oldest friend. It will still protect me if at any time your majesty should wish to take away my new cloaks." How pleased the king was, and how embarrassed the jealous governors became to hear the wise man's reply. Now, the question is why the shepherd was carrying a blanket always. To this, he replied that when he was poor, before being a governor or before meeting the king, this blanket was his only friend. This is his only belonging. And now or in future, if in any day the king would send him out of the court, this blanket will surely be with him, because this is his only possession. This means the shepherd always respects his past days of poverty. He never ignores that, he never hates that. Rather, he is always prepared for that, and he always respects that. How pleased the king was, and how embarrassed the jealous governors became to hear the wise man's reply. Now they knew that the shepherd was indeed the humblest and wisest man in the land. The king made him the governor of a much bigger district that very day. No doubt that after all of this, the king is very impressed and again made the shepherd the governor of a big province as a reward. So, this was our story. What we can understand from this story? That the shepherd is always curious and always want to get knowledge. Though he was in a way uneducated, or he didn't get any school education, but still he was very wise. He was always with knowledge. And from this story we can learn that though we have nothing, if we have knowledge, we can get everything. This is the story of a shepherd. I hope you like this video. If you really like this video, tap the like button. If you have any question about the story, you can write in the comment section. And in the next week, I will bring a new English version video. We have recently opened a Facebook page, and the link is in the description. You can like that page, and up to that, best of luck.